What's up, everybody? This video will guide you to making your lights fade in and out instead of just blink. This looks like this on the onboard LEDs. We can make it fade in and out. With these onboard LEDs are often called pixels or neopixels when we write the code. And if we wanted to, we could also attach an LED to the outside of one of the pins of the board to make those fade in and out. And I'll show you both sets of instructions. To start, we want to go to makecode.com. When you get to makecode.com, click on Circuit Playground Express, and we're going to click on New Project. It says it's loading the blocks. Now the blocks are considered sets of instructions, and right now it gives us one block known as a forever block. The forever block, whenever we put a set of instructions inside of this forever block, it will repeat those instructions so the computer knows what to do. A computer is dumb, really dumb, until you tell it what to do. So it doesn't know anything until you put some instructions for it. We're actually going to start with something known as a start block. So if you click on loops and drag the start block at the top, the start block allows you to run a set of instructions once, kind of a get ready and set the stage for things to come, and then it'll run the forever block. What I'm going to do is go to light, scroll all the way down to the bottom, click on underneath more, it says set pixel color at 0 to red. Now these LEDs on the onboard are known as pixels, or as you can see it calls it a neopixel. So this is neopixel 0, and going counterclockwise the numbers are 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay, and it starts with 0. So we're going to set that to red. Obviously we could change it to whatever color we want. I'm going to stick with red. In the forever block, we're going to create the brightness for this. Now, it's a tricky way to make this fade. We don't just have an set of instructions that say, make this fade, just like this. So we have to tell it what we mean by fade, and that means we're going to say set a brightness to a certain level, and then decrease that brightness, and pause, decrease the brightness, pause, decrease the brightness, pause, and we're going to repeat that. So I'm going to go to light, and at the top here there's an instruction to set the brightness. So I'm going to set the brightness. Now the highest you can go is 255. Now this is really bright. You may want to turn it down to begin with, maybe start with something just under 200 and try that. After we get there, we actually need to have it pause. So in the loops set of functions, there's a block called pause, and it'll pause for a number of milliseconds. Now milliseconds are 1,000th of a second. So if we wanted a full second, we would have it go to 1,000, or we just click on it and go down to 1 second. Instead though, we want about 50 milliseconds. So I'm going to change this to 50 milliseconds, and you'll see why in a second. If we don't put the milliseconds in there, that pause, we get something that goes really fast, and we want our fade to be smooth. So you can decrease this and adjust it as you go on and build this loop. So after that, now we've got two sets of instructions. We can actually, we're going to do this again. So I'm going to copy and paste a set of instructions here. I'm going to copy and paste this one in, and then I'll have another one. Okay, so I'm just copying and pasting these in. Whoops. Let me put that up there, and I'm shifting them around. You'll want to repeat this multiple times, maybe repeat it 10 to 12 different times. And each time, you'll want to change the brightness level to go down for it to fade down. So it'll start at 179 or even 180. Let's make it a nice number. And how about we just decrease by 30 each time? So now we can go to 150, 120, pause, and then I can copy it again and paste. And what I'm doing is clicking on Control C after I click on it to copy it, and Control V to paste it. So now this one, we were at 120, we want to go to 90. Okay, and we can just keep going and going. Now if you notice over on the left hand side, it'll actually show us an example of what it's doing with the light. So if I click over here on play, see if we can't get it to play, maybe. It's doing something, but it's not noticeable. So maybe our brightness needs to be more. But if we click on the snail, we can watch our code work in slow motion. Okay, so it first ran the start, and now it's going through the forever loop. It's really hard to tell in the simulator, so we'd have to look at what it looks like on the actual one. So now it's running through each line of code, step by step. It's reading the instructions, telling it what to do. Okay, I have one that's pre-built over here for the onboard LEDs, and we're going to run this in slow motion so you can also see what it does. And hopefully this one will show more on the simulator board of what it looks like to fade, and then we'll go back to the video of this. So this one I started at 205 brightness, max is 255, and you can see over here how fast that's kind of going in and out, but it's not just blinking, it's actually fading. I'm going to click on the snail so we can watch it in slow motion. It'll start with the on start instructions. It did that really fast, and then it went over to the forever loop. It's going through each of these blocks inside the big forever block. And actually this keeps going and going and going, and then when it gets to the bottom it'll go back and repeat. So now it went back to the top and now it's repeating. Okay, and you can see this adjust its brightness here on the left hand side. It's getting dimmer, and what I did is I had it decrease its brightness, this number here, and then once I got to a low enough number I thought, oh, I'm going to have it increase its brightness the same way I decreased the brightness. So I got to 15, 45, 75, then 105, and I just put little pauses in between. If you want to smooth this out, you can adjust that brightness number increment, or you can also adjust the amount of seconds that it's pausing. Okay, now to go on, and just to show you this, this is what it looks like at full speed. So the onboard LED looks like this with that program I just ran. So this is what it actually looks like as it's running in full time, in real time. This is it fading in and out, that very set of instructions. So now let's take a look at a different one. If we wanted to write code to have an external LED fade in and out, very similar set of instructions. This one, I don't need to have a start because I don't need to tell it what color. I already have a red LED. So there's my red LED set up, and on my LED, the long leg of the LED is considered the positive side, and this is connected to analog pin number 0. So this is A0, so A stands for analog. So you can see here on the left where I'm pointing, that's A0, and that's this one right here. So that's my positive leg. Then I have my smaller leg, which is negative, connected to the ground. It says GND next to the pin, that hole on the right hand side, so you can see it connected there. Okay, and we want to make this, so we want to make it fade, but we don't need to set the color, so we don't have a start. We just have a forever block, and we want to click on the instructions are to go to advanced, click on pins, and then there's one that says analog right pin. So A0, which is the pin we connected the positive LED leg to, and we're going to set it to a certain number. Now that number translates to amount of power getting to the LED. So this is what we used, and we would insert it in here, and then we'd have pauses in between. Now this is kind of like our brightness, except for the only difference is around 950 or about 1,000 is pretty bright for it, and I didn't want to get it to the brightest level. And when you get down to maybe the lowest levels, around 500, maybe 400, and around 400 is when the LED just turns off. So that's our low. So it turns out 0 is not the low, and this can differ for different LEDs. You'll just have to test that out. And I've put pauses in between, and I did the same thing. So you can see my code here increasing once I decreased. It goes all the way back up to 950, and then it repeats, and it starts at 950, it goes down. We'll run this in slow motion here so you can see it. So now it's running. Of course, you can't see it over here because there's no LEDs attached, but that's how it's doing it. Okay, and this looks like this in real time. I'll make it a little bit bigger. So when I run this, You can see it fade in and out. Dim, bright, dim, bright. And that's the fade for the LED. And of course, you could also play around with this and actually make it go to music. So maybe you have notes here, so every time it goes down an increment, it plays a note, and you can play around with that. Have fun and play on.